thank you very much for inviting me along to talk to you. So my name's Annette Bourne, and as Anne-Marie said, I'm the Finance Director here at the Lighthouse Learning Trust. And you may well say, who is the Lighthouse Learning Trust? Any of you heard of it? One. The rest of you haven't heard of it. It's the overarching entity, company, if you like, or in this case a trust, that owns your college here, which is Taunton. So, company, entity, trust, lots of different sort of words which, you know, kind of a little bit interchangeable, but they've also got really precise legal meanings. So, before we get going, I thought I would just give you a little bit of an intro, you know, like you often do in business meetings, you go around the table. If you've ever done that, you have to go around and say a bit about you, you know, everyone goes, oh God, what do I say? So, why do you want to listen to me? What's the point? So I thought you might be interested to know where I've worked. So, Anne-Marie's going to move my slide. So, in my career, these are some of the places, well, pretty much all the places that I've worked. And if you'd asked me, back when I was kind of your age, has about a plan, well, I would have no idea what my plan was, but anyway, this is how it worked out. And I was reflecting that actually there's lots of different types of organisation that I've worked for. Again, by chance, not by design. So I started out, after I'd done my degree, which was in management sciences, which is effectively business. It's another name for, you know, like business degree. So I got a job with JP Morgan. Any of you know JP Morgan down at Bournemouth? Huge big bank, American bank. You chased Manhattan back in the day. I mean, they're a really good company to work for now, so, and I know they do some really good sort of apprenticeship programs, so, you know, you guys will be thinking about your next step after you've done this. You know, think about where you want to go, what kind of organisation you might want to work for. JP Morgan, you know, really prestigious company, on your doorstep, just down the road of Bournemouth. So, then I was thinking, well, what type of entity are they? Who knows what, do you all know what PLC is? Yeah, there's two P's, isn't there? There's private limited and there's public limited. But when we say PLC, we mean public limited company. So it's a company that's floated on the stock exchange, owned by its shareholders, and the parent bank would have, Chase, which is the big American bank, would have owned quite a lot of it. Do you understand about liability of the people who own the business? Have you touched on that at all? Any of you come across that? So, public limited companies, so limited liability, the shareholders can't lose any more than they've invested. So that was my first place that I worked. And then I decided for my sins I wanted to become an accountant. So I went and worked for Deloitte. Any of you heard of Deloitte? One of the biggest accountancy and now consultancy firms, one of the biggest accountancy firms in the world. So that was my next move. Now back in the day when I joined them, they were actually a partnership. And that meant that the business had unlimited liability. So if you haven't come across that, what it means is that the partners are liable for everything that their fellow partners do. So if any of you guys decide, if any of you thought about setting up your own businesses, perhaps working with somebody else? One or two tentative nods. So if you go into partnership with somebody, you have to really, your risk is really wide. You know, you've got unlimited liability. You could lose your house if your fellow partner in the business doesn't, you know, signs up to a really bad deal. You're liable for it. So accountancy firms and law firms back quite a while ago all tended to be partnerships, so unlimited liability. Now it's not that appealing to a lot of people to have, you know, to have so much risk. So this idea of a limited liability partnership came to being. So Deloitte now would be what's called an LLP, a limited liability partnership. So it's another different type of entity that probably, I don't know, do you cover this?
Yeah, they have. They're just being shy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But also, what you're bringing to it is a practical element. So they've learned it, you know, we've been talking about sole traders and limited liability, but you're putting it into a picture. So they're not going to be that confident maybe.
No.
Because it's just starting out with it. Yeah.
So they've they feel a bit different to work for. You know, the accountancy firm Deloitte, you know, it's all about fees and getting fees from your clients and auditing and managing risk and all that stuff. Very different, say, to the bank. Anyway, so I moved on from there and I went to work for this company. You probably won't know the name, it's called Alders. Again, not too young to know the name, but it used to be a big department store, a bit like Beals or Debenhams.
Yeah.
I don't think the department stores still exist anymore. Anyway, so it's part of that group. Actually, we were retailing at airports and on ships and ferries. It's a really interesting business and lots of quite a bit of international travel for me in that job. And it's retail, so it's really fast moving and, you know, things happen really quickly. You get involved in opening a new shop up at, I don't know, Glasgow Airport or across the water in the Netherlands or Copenhagen or something like that. No, it's loads of travel. It was really interesting. By this time I was a qualified accountant, so I was doing the accounting, finance manager roles. But thinking about the business, that business, part of the Alders group, got sold off. Now, why did it get sold off? And the reason was that it was part of this listed company, so it was PLC, but it was the shareholders didn't like our quite exciting selling at airport business because it was really volatile. So one year the profits would be really up, and the next the profits would be really down. Shareholders hate that. And the stock market hates that, so because the share price sort of yo-yos around, nobody wants to bet on it because you're seen as risky. So Alders sold off to the airport retailing side of it, which if you've gone through an airport these days, you know, you can't move for shops, can you? Airports make more money out of shops and car parks than they do out of planes coming in and taking off and passengers going through. So that's where airports make their money. So they sold us off to Swiss Air. Swiss Air had us for a couple of years, paid probably way too much for us as a business. They went bust. So then we got sold on again to a Swiss-Italian joint venture. Now that was interesting because then they changed the head office to Switzerland, so I had an opportunity. I could have gone and I could have relocated to Switzerland. I was there, and by that stage I've got kids, so it wasn't really an opportunity to relocate, but some of my colleagues did. It was really, you know, quite an exciting time. All the time thinking about who owned the company, still limited liability, even though you've got these sort of different shareholders, but the liability of the company is still limited. Then I moved out of retail into education, and I worked for Bournemouth Pool College, and they are a charity created by Act of Parliament, as it happens. It's just what the government decided to do 20 years ago, their fee colleges. Colleges, schools still have to run themselves like a business, like any other business. So in a sense my job didn't change, my context changed, but you know, in a sense, you are my customers now. You are students, as opposed to retailers in an airport or accountancy firm where it's audit clients and boring, dry stuff like that. So, the world of education. So I worked for one college, then two colleges got together, Bournemouth Pool College and Brockenhurst College, which you doubtless know because you know your local area. They got together and they said, let's set up a shared company, a joint venture. So two colleges set up a joint venture company, this is West Limited, wholly owned by its two colleges, nothing to do with stock exchange or anything like that. So we were just doing finance and HR and student MIS systems and stuff like that in this company sort of in the middle. And then it's not that interesting, but if you're understanding about ownership, private company limited by guarantee without share capital is just slightly different from a normal limited company where you've got conventional shares and conventional shareholders. And then back at the start of this year I came to the Lighthouse Learning Trust, who are also a private limited company. They're limited by guarantee, so it's just a sort of subtle difference. The directors, who are also the trustees, they have a £10 they are liable, but they're only liable, excuse me, each for £10. So it's a slightly different form of liability, limited liability. So that's, in the space of a career, lots of different businesses that I've worked for, and hopefully you're really interested in businesses. And they're so different, and finding out what makes them tick and what makes them financially successful. Obviously, I'm interested in the financial outcomes of businesses, and they're all so different. And although I'm not going to plug any particular career, becoming an accountant and then working for Deloitte. So I went down the audit route, so I worked in the audit team, which a bit dry really on one level, but you really learn about the heart and soul of what makes business work financially. And if a business doesn't work financially, the chances are it won't be in business for very long, because it has to work financially. So you really, sort of that the accountancy route really gives you an insight into how businesses work.
But I mean, I think if you were thinking about going into finance and accounts, you've got to make sure. One of the biggest things is being ethical, isn't it?
Yeah.
What
professional, your professional ethics as a as a finance professional.
Yeah.
Professional is really important.
Yeah. Because people have obviously got to trust that you're looking at their accounts and you're going to be honest and trustworthy when you're dealing with those accounts. But I mean, auditing, if it was, because it could be exciting in terms of you're looking for areas that somebody's perhaps not doing it right. Yeah. It could be picking out, but quite investigative.
Yeah. And actually, the company I ended up working for was a client, so you get to see businesses, you actually get to kind of know a bit what they're like. I'd like to work there, or I definitely wouldn't want to work there. So you really get to see a bit, you get a real chance to see lots of different businesses.
Has anybody got any questions about any sort of jobs and things that Annette might have done?
No.
All right, so back to the Lighthouse Learning Trust then. So
can I just highlight that on this handout, those who have just come in, this is for your assignment. So Annette's come in to tell you everything that you need to know that you can write up for your assignment. So we're going through, hopefully in the right order, some of these questions. So you need to make sure that you're writing things down, please. Does anybody need a pen? Okay, thank you.
Could I have a spare copy of the yellow? Is there a spare copy of the yellow?
It is what I'm doing here.
So what's the Lighthouse Learning Trust mission, vision, values, what's it about? It's just so that you understand the college versus the trust. So a multi-academy trust normally has more than one academy within it. How many of you come from schools which were academies? Do you know? Anybody ever?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oasis Academy Lighthouse.
Anybody else think they go to school at an academy? No? Okay. Well, it's quite a lot of schools are, but perhaps not so much in the local area. So the idea is that academies, the government is encouraging schools right across the country to join together into these multi-academy trusts. And if you're cynical, because I sometimes am, being a finance person, you'd say, well, actually, it's because you want to get economies of scale going. So rather than have one finance team for one school, if you can have 3 academy schools under the same multi-academy trust umbrella, you can have one finance department. Instead of having one payroll, instead of having 3 payroll people doing payroll, you have 1 person. So it's, economies of scale are part of why the government is pushing these multi-academy trusts. So that's what the Lighthouse Learning Trust is. We've got 2 colleges. This one, does anyone know what the other one is? There's probably no reason why you would actually. The other one is St Vincent College down at Gosport, which is a bit of a long way away, but there've been some really good close working between the 2 colleges for quite a few years. In fact, Matt Atkinson, who's the CEO of the trust, used to be the deputy principal here. So there's that close working, and then several years down the road, got a multi-academy trust. So this is our mission, to deliver high quality education and training which creates ambition for all and promotes social mobility in its members' communities. The second one is that the Trust is going to play a full part in the self-improving school and college sector through partnership with other appropriate institutions and or through judicious expansion. It's not the zippiest mission statement compared to the likes of, say, I don't know, Nike or Amazon or Apple. It's slightly wordy, but we're in education, so you know that's probably it's appropriate, isn't it, that we're quite descriptive about what we want our mission to be. The first bit is absolutely about high quality education, isn't it? It's about the best teaching and learning for you guys. I think that thing about ambition for all is really important. So the teachers aren't just here to teach, are they? They're here to kind of, hopefully, kind of set you free, set you flying off onto your lives ahead, your careers ahead. The second bit of it is, well, perhaps judicious expansion is the phrase which really means we want to grow. So we want to bring other academies, other schools, colleges into the Trust. So that's what that one's about.
I will put, if you've not got everything, I will put this on Moodle for us.
So the next...
Don't write these down.
Don't write these.
Yeah.
So this is our vision and values. Now again...
Does it ask you to do that?
I know, but you can make some notes of these, but
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think you've got to write the whole thing. But when it comes to your assignment, I'll put these all on Moodle, but you can make some notes to give you an idea of the sort of vision and values.
If you just take the first two, you know, the first couple of words of each bullet point, teaching and learning. Best possible, highest quality teaching and learning for you guys. Value for money is the next one. So, and that's, you know, very much a part of my role is driving that sort of value for money. We have to be efficient. The government just, you know, doesn't give us, never gives us enough money. You know, we have to be efficient.
So there's headings there: teaching and learning, value for money. You can put these words down, but don't worry about writing the whole thing there.
Inclusivity, so that's, you know, about being absolutely open and fair to all. Growth mindset, that comes back a bit to that sort of ambition thing, doesn't it? You know, we want the best for you guys in whatever you do next. Safety, you know, I think you all know how important we take safeguarding, and that's like, you know, that starts right at the start of primary infant school, doesn't it? It goes all the way through. It's still really important. Not just physically safe, but, you know, all the stuff around, free from prejudice, intimidation. Accountability, so again, another one, that one really speaks to me as a finance director, you know, in terms of financial accountability, and, you know, value for money. We're publicly funded. This is money paid by your, you know, you guys probably aren't paying any tax yet, but your parents, you know, probably say, well, I'm a taxpayer, where are my taxes going? This is public money that we're spending, so we're accountable for that. But accountability is also about excellence and professionalism in the teaching, so that's what that one is. Integrity, that comes back a bit to what Anne-Marie was saying about ethics, professionalism, honesty. We have to be self-critical. If we get it wrong, we have to put our hands up. And then finally, celebration. So, you know, it's very easy to get caught up in the day job, isn't it? Forget to celebrate, and actually, the more we celebrate, you know, the more we'll actually really believe in ourselves. That's a vision of values. Now, I think this is the sort of stuff that you need to know about, isn't it? To be able to, you know,
Yes.
you've got to be fluent, if you like, in understanding profit or non-profit making. So, are we all happy that we're non-profit making here in a multi-academy trust? Yeah, I mean, we're not paid shareholders, we're not paid dividends. We reinvest. So if any money is kind of left over, then we reinvest it in the computers and the building and the repairing the rooms. Not just if there's any money left over, there has to be. So we have to generate, what I would say, generate some cash to be able to replace the computers. to be able to furniture, toilets, you know,
Lighting.
everything, literally everything around the fabric of the building, the technology. So financial sustainability is also a really, really important word. Any business, you know, if it's going to have a future, it has to be financially sustainable. What would be the single most important thing if you were trying to work out whether a business was financially sustainable? What would you want to know most about?
Point at somebody.
What simple thing? Go on, somebody be brave. Finances, what does that normally mean?
Profit.
Profit?
Anything, so.
Entities, which means cash, money in the bank. Yeah? So ultimately, your business has to have enough money, whether it's a school, whether it's whether you're running a business for promoting, it was running events, wasn't it? The other business that you.
Yes, or events, yeah.
So that events, to be sustainable, you have to have enough money to keep going for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. What sector are we in? So we're sometimes called tertiary sector, so it's services. We're not, not manufacturing anything. We're educating you guys. I didn't really understand the quarter. I'll let you do that one.
Yeah. Well, the quaternary, there is another one after tertiary. Quaternary is about research and development. So education does fall into that a little bit if we're doing research and providing data and analysis.
Which I suppose universities.
Yeah, universities will do more. Yeah.
So what's our scope? What's our market? Do you agree with that? What I've put there, that we're local? It's quite. How far? Does anybody come more than 10 miles to college? Yeah. One. How far do you come? 20 miles. Anyone come any further than that? 20 is quite a long way. So we're quite local, and but there's all that national stuff, that the government helpfully tells us we must comply with, and education is very much like that, isn't it? You'll have heard that over the years. It's probably, dare I say, teachers getting fed up with the national curriculum, or we've got to do this, we've got to tell you about that, and it's there for good reason. And again, you guys will be taxpayers soon, and you'll want to know that schools are teaching what they should be teaching, and that's why the government sets out national stuff. Ofsted, plays a very big part in education, doesn't it? It's that they're a watchdog, aren't they? They come in and they check up. They're like the auditor. They're like the auditors of education. I guess that's an analogy. Why do you audit something? You audit it to make sure they're doing what they say they should be doing, really. That they're doing what they say they're doing, and that there isn't any bad stuff going on. So that's what Ofsted are there to make sure that nationally we've got a good education system. Size of the organisation. Our income for the trust is about 13 million, and the two colleges are broadly similar sort of income. One's just under 6 million, the other's just a bit over.
Which one?
We're slightly smaller here. Richard Taunton's a bit smaller than St Vincent. And we employ 450 people. So compared to the business that you saw who came in and visited you previously, they're much smaller. We've got 450 people. How do I know? Well, I signed the payroll off last week on Wednesday, because we all get paid on the last day of the month, as tends to happen. You probably know all that. So I see the payroll, and I have to sign it off, and I have to review it and do some checks and go look at the bottom line and go, how much? So that's part of my job. Anything else we want to talk about in terms of
Has everybody discovered where they're writing all these notes down?
Yeah.
So we've got tertiary sector in there. Just make sure you've got a few notes of that because there's a few boxes on that second page.
Have you got any questions on that first lot?
There's a bit of
I might get them. I swear that. 150 that they sell for like £1,000. So, I don't think she's
Do you know how much income we get per student from the government?
Can you tell us?
Very, that's public knowledge.
You can't like it.
How much income per student in sixth form, or, post 16, your stage? Any of you want to guess? Anyone want to guess? 40? 40? Any other ideas? Are we talking a week, a month, a year? Sorry? Per week?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Anyone got a feel for it?
£10 a week.
Yeah, a bit more. How much money do we think the government pay us? Because what's that 13 million mean, Most of that comes for funding from 16 to 18-year-olds. Well, I'll tell you the answer. So we tend to talk in terms of per annum, so for the year. So a student, each full-time 16 to 18 student, the funding that we get for that, for each student is around about 4,200. Quite a lot of government money, isn't it? That we're entrusted with to spend wisely on your education, on teachers like Anne-Marie, on support services like me, the building, all that stuff. That's where the vast majority of that 13 million comes from with our students. Size of the business. 13 million probably seems like quite a lot, but compared to, I don't know, Bournemouth and Poole College, where I was previously, their turnover was about 35 million. Brockenhurst is a bit bigger, 25 million. It's all down to student numbers, just the size of the college. Little primary school down the road, might only have 2 million because it's only got, say a couple of hundred students. Okay? So, if we move on to talk about the structure of the business. So this is the what we might call the executive structure, or the more the operational structure of the trust. This isn't the college. So we're not showing the teaching structure where Anne-Marie would sit. This is about the structure of the trust. So do you all know what CEO stands for?
Chief Executive Officer.
Very good. CEO, Chief Executive Officer.
You'll be one day, Callum.
Oh, I already am.
So that's me. Sometimes get called in this type of role. Sometimes get called the finance director. Sometimes get called the CFO, which is the Chief Financial Officer. Which sounds a bit too grand to me.
It's
great.
great.
Finance director.
Yeah.
So we've got the heads of college. So that's Liz. Have you all met Liz?
Who's
Liz.
Liz, you would have seen her in your induction week. She probably would have given you a bit of a talk.
Is she the head?
Yes,
Yeah.
She's the head of college
Principal.
here, and the head of college at St Vincent is Matt again, because Matt's actually doing a split job, so he's doing 40% CEO, 60% head of college. So he's got two heads.
Yeah.
Wears two hats. And then the vice principals, so Paul Swindale, do you know Paul? So Paul's here. No, you won't know. Andy, you won't know. Yeah, Andy and Jan are based down at St Vincent. And we've also got, and then we've got they aren't employed by the trust directly. They're employed by their colleges, but actually we're all employed by the trust. But they're very much college specific. This lot here we're all doing the central trust stuff in the middle for both colleges. And if we bring in another school, other colleges, we'll be doing it for 3 or 4 or 5. So I've got the finance team. I've also got responsibility for human resources and the estates and facilities, so the whole stuff around managing the building.
So can I just say, is HR a shared service?
Yes.
Yeah.
And IT and MIS.
So when Annette was talking about the college, the 2 colleges with the trust is over the top, when we were doing organisational charts yesterday, this section here would be at the top. Then it would split off into the different colleges. But what Annette's sort of showing you here is the fact that there's the trust first on the top, then that all feeds down to us in our different colleges. But we've got the shared services for 2, and it's what she was saying, economies of scale, meaning you're saving some money because we're sharing all of these different services. So we're going to be talking later on about the different teams, but payroll and finance and human resources, IT, management information systems, MIS. Can you write that down somewhere, whether it's on the back or whatever? But you need to sort of be able to be aware that the difference between somebody like Aura Events, they haven't got any of this. They've not got trustees. They've not got different teams or different departments. It's them. So when you're looking at the differences and the similarities, you can say, well, these guys, we've got shared services, we've got a big team. You know, that's a major difference. So just write those shared services down. That would be awesome.
I mean, the 2, comparing a trust like this with Aura, you know, they're quite different in terms of not just the obvious things like, you know, a lot more turnover. It's that complexity of organisation structure that you have to support it. It's quite significantly different.
So one says Richard Swanson and someone.
St Vincent, sorry.
Yeah, St Vincent College is the Gospel College.
So, in terms of if I was working and I wanted a question answered or a decision made, you can see that I might be able to have access to sort of talk to these people, but it would be you that possibly made the decision, or higher up if it was something.
Depends what it is. Really.
Yeah.
Depends what it is. But you know, these people at this level, they're experts in what they do. I mean, IT as a group is always a really good one. So IT is reporting to somebody who isn't an IT expert. None of us are IT experts. So we really need people who know their stuff. So as the finance director, I will need to make some decisions about how, you know, whether we go with one IT solution for something versus another. And I haven't got a clue really. So I rely on the skill and judgment of the people at this level to make recommendations, and so I might make the ultimate decision, but really it's the people at that level whose skill and judgment play such a big part in really good decision making. Okay.
So we're on to stakeholders now. You know what would be really useful is to see, to add on how they can have an impact on us. This bit, actually. So what I'd like to do now, you can write this list of people that the college has an impact on. So, or we have an involvement with. You need to write this list, but part of your assignment, you need to understand how they can have an impact on the business. So I'd like to write the list, and then we'll come off this list with some different ideas of how they could potentially affect us.
Do you want us to talk about that now?
So yeah, I'll let them write the list, and then. So it's students, past, present, future, parents, past, present, future, teachers, support staff, governors and trustees, suppliers, banks and loans in brackets, other schools and colleges, community users of college. What's ES? FA.
So ESFA is the government department that funds us. So the Education Skills Funding Agency, it's the Department of Education. So that's central government. And local government are also really interested in us. HCC, by the way, is Hampshire County Council.
That's rubbish. Don't really even read that.
We all got a list? What does everybody understand by the word stakeholders?
People who are affected by the business's success or failure.
Yeah. Very good answer. Or affected by it, or maybe want to influence it. Because some of these just want to have an influence. What about people who or organisations that if we get it wrong, will be affected? I mean, it's a really good definition. People who will be affected by what we do. Perhaps
Good or bad. Yeah.
Good or bad, yeah. Is there anyone on that list you're sort of surprised to see? You wouldn't have expected to see? Is there anyone? Have we missed any? Well, if you think of them, just shout them.
Yeah.
So what do you want to know then about the stakeholders to answer your assignment?
So they need to be able to understand how something could affect them, the business. So in terms of students affecting our business, if we have lots and lots of students come into our business, our college, that affects us because we've got a busy place, we get more funding, but it affects us in terms of rooms. Have we got enough rooms to put people? Have we got enough places to sit people?
Class sizes?
Yeah, class sizes.
So there's a real tension there between me as the finance director going, come on, let's have as many people in the classroom as possible. And Anne-Marie's going, hang on a second, I can't teach 30 people effectively. So there's that tension between, the pure financial driver, which might be to say, have as many students in a class as possible, have as many students in the college as possible, and actually the quality of the teaching. So there's a balance. Equally, if this was a really tiny group, there's like 2 students, finance director with my money hat, I'll be going, how much is that costing us for 2 students? I'll be like, oh. Now there might be reasons why we would do that, but ultimately, long term, that isn't going to be sustainable to have really, really small class sizes for a prolonged period of time. So, big college like us, we can manage that for a year or 2, but it comes back to that sustainability word. So long term, it's not going to be sustainable. But equally, it wouldn't be sustainable to have 30 or class size of 30. Anne-Marie might say, well, look, I'll cope, for this year, but it's not something I can do.
Yeah. So against students, you could put yourself a little note to say, if we get more students, it's more money for the college. And then we've got the opposite. If people decide not to come here, it's not going to be sustainable, and problems occur.
What are the so you as students know better than anyone. What were the drivers for you in making a decision about what college to go to? Yeah, parents influence. What else? Yeah. Distance, yeah.
Didn't you came yesterday? And
No.
Yeah, so you were at Barton, and then decided that it was too far, and so you changed your mind and came here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why didn't you come here in the first place?
Because my mum said she thought why would be better for me.
Okay. Yeah, so parents have an influence. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. So you can see that parents have an influence on where they feel it's best for you to go. And I think actually, as a parent, the cost of transport to getting you from Southampton to Eastleigh or somewhere else, or Winchester, it's not cheap. You're talking about £600 odd for a bus pass or a train pass. So for me, a local college, as long as it's, good and doing the things you want it to do, then that is a really good choice.
What else influenced you? Marketing? Do any of you see any of our marketing?
Did you come to any open events?
No? So that's really important, isn't it? If you guys are all saying, I saw none of your marketing material, then us as a business might need to think about whether our marketing's
Did you see a prospectus? Like with all the list of stuff?
Or if I did, I won't remember.
Okay. How many people saw a prospectus, please? A little booklet.
How many of you came to
With
an
all
open?
the courses in.
Okay.
How many people looked at the website?
Website.
Oh.
Anybody not look at the website? So, Richard Taunton website.
I'll go on there and go on Moodle and that's about it.
No,
They
in terms of
require
making
to-
a decision.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, no.
No? Okay, so website probably is pretty important. It is for most businesses these days.
Yeah.
So you guys, make a decision about coming here, and there's lots of influences on you. And we as a business need to understand your journey, if you like, into coming here. So that's what all businesses do, isn't it? Understand their customers. And the better you understand them, the better you can appeal to them and persuade them to come.
I'll tell you why I came here.
Yeah.
Some of you know, some of you might not know, but I came from Brockenhurst College. Very good reputation. Ofsted, it's a good. And I came here, what tipped the balance for me coming here was the fact that this college protected the time I have with you. So those of you who are in my tutor group, that time is protected, whereas other colleges have scrapped it because it's not a funded course. Having tutor time, that prep time, an hour and a half, most of the colleges have not got that opportunity to see you. And also on a Friday afternoon, I've got a slot that if we feel like we're struggling with anything, it's called an Xbox, I can see you again there, outside of our ordinary lesson times. So, and also, since I've been here, I've seen my line manager twice for one-to-one discussion about how I'm getting on. I've already had 2 lots of professional development, which I've never had that at other colleges. Yes, I have professional development, but not so quick and not so it's valued here. My professional development is valued, my well-being is valued. Yeah, it gets stressful at times, but you can see that the college is trying to make sure that you're doing a good job. So, yeah.
So your staff are such a big, important set of stakeholders in a business. You can have the best product in the world, but if the people who are working for your company aren't, if they're not happy, if they're not motivated, if they're not trained, then they are not, your business is limited in how successful it can be. So they're a really, really important bunch of stakeholders. I mean, have you all thought about the type of organisation you'd like to work for? I mean, who's got a part-time job at the moment? You've got a few hands. Some of you got part-time jobs. What sort of organisation do you want to work for? Yeah? But how will it treat you? How will it make you feel?
Well, I enjoy it, so I'll make it.
Yeah? Anybody got any other... Have you thought about, does anybody want international travel? Anybody fancy working for a business where you could travel internationally? Anybody thought about it? No, I mean, that was important to me. I fell into it by chance, and I didn't know how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I wasn't doing a lot, but and certainly once you have kids, it's flipping up. It's really hard work. So, you know, there's an age and stage for them. It's really exciting. In fact, when I came to education, much as I love education, I did really miss working with colleagues in other countries, because you get a different view of the world from your Swiss colleagues or your Dutch colleagues or your Portuguese, you know. So those things might be important to you. So Anne-Marie's talking about, you know, the culture of actually respecting the teacher and actually saying, you know, teachers, we need to allow teachers to teach. So you might, you know, you might think those things are really important, and believe me, once you start working, you will think it's really important. If we can't recruit good teachers, like Anne-Marie, then the teaching won't be any good.
Yeah.
So it's so important that you've got a, you know, you appeal to people to want to come and work for you.
So what I would sort of expect to see is you're trying to make some notes here. So again, students, obviously student numbers affects us, good or bad. Parents can have an effect on us because they make decisions, you know, based on other colleges that they've seen or reputation, things like that. Teachers, how can we summarise that? So, you know, having good quality teachers that get good results affects the college. Equally, bad teachers, bad results affect the college. It's putting it in a nutshell. We've got a lot of support staff here at college. You might have been to the student help desk there. You might have asked somebody at reception. So if they're not nice to you, what would you think about the college? If you walk into the college and the receptionist ignores you, or doesn't say hello, or, you know, if you know, your first...
I would think she's rude, but the college is.
Or he, because it might be.
Or he.
He,
I think
yeah.
that was been sexist.
Yeah. So,
It's a receptionist.
the customer service that you get here from support staff is really important to the actual whole image of the college. It is. And I found them to be so helpful, and I hope that you have as well. And people like in the library, they're so knowledgeable and know where to find things. So please make sure if you need any help, go and ask everybody. Yeah. So we've got governors and trustees.
Yeah,
how they influence.
Governors and trustees are a bit. They're very peculiar to trusts, to schools, charities, and they are like your shareholders really in a commercial business. So they ultimately make a lot of, you know, they ultimately make a lot of decisions. They don't do all the operational stuff, but they do make the big picture decisions. So for the Lighthouse Learning Trust, it's some fairly kind of invisible people. So it's not like the ones I showed you on the org chart. They aren't the trustees. The trustees sit above that again. You know, they're what used to be called in schools governors. Have you come across the word governors in schools?
Yeah.
Heard you talk about the governors are coming in? You know, they're not paid, so they're volunteers. So it is quite different to directors of businesses, but they do sit right at the top, and they do ultimately have responsibility for that trust.
So what are they actually doing?
What they are actually doing is they are making sure that the trust is run properly. In that's one sentence. They are making sure the trust is run properly.
Can you write that down, please, next to the governors?
Properly meaning all the things we were talking about. So from my point of view, financial sustainability. We've talked about auditing. So they'll hear whether from external auditors is the trust being run properly. In terms of teaching and learning, Ofsted will come in every few years. We will look at results all the time really, but particularly once a year we'll look at the outcomes of your results in a year or two's time. So they are ultimately looking at all those really high level indicators of whether the trust is being run properly. I'm a trustee for a secondary school over the other side of Hampshire at Burgate School, so I'm a trustee there. So I I am legally responsible with my other fellow trustees for proper running of that school.
So your trustees are like your people that you work with?
No, they're not involved in the day-to-day. So they come in for meetings probably 3 or 4 times a term.
If you imagine this college literally just being, if you imagine it just being on its own and running its own little management just on its own, it's really like closed in. You've only got people with certain opinions. But if you bring in a board of governors, like Annette going to another school with her finance director background, she's bringing a whole host of voluntary skills into that school, as well as other people. So governors they could be past parents, they could be heads of business, but they want to volunteer to help the college make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing.
Yeah, and so you should see
a critical friend sort of thing.
And more, because they're not just your friend, but actually they're holding us to account. You know, Matt and I could decide, Matt's the CEO, I'm the CEO, we could decide, right, we want to go off on some mad project and spend a load of money on it. If we didn't, if there wasn't that overarching sort of umbrella of trustees saying, well, no, that isn't what our mission is about. That's not a good use of public. Ultimately, they are making sure the business is run properly. So I'm accountable to Matt as my boss, but Matt's accountable to the trustees who sit right above at the very top. But they're not experts. But that's how schools are run, colleges are run right across the country. These unpaid. So they're volunteers, governors. It's really kind of an interesting thing to get your head around. Versus, the Amazons and the Apples and big corporate companies where the people who are making the decisions are also the people who financially have a very big stake in the company. We got a bit sidetracked, didn't we?
No, that's fine. We can. I think that was necessary, though. We'll carry on.
So that was governors and trustees. So they're really interested in all aspects of our business.
So have you made sure that you've written they make sure the college is doing what they're supposed to be doing next to the governors?
What about the next group, suppliers? What kind of suppliers do you think you have? Give us some examples. Somebody who hasn't spoken. Go on. Suppliers. What do we need to buy in? Yeah, furniture supplier. Come on, everyone. Books, yeah. Front or back there? Food, yeah. ABM are our contract. We contract out the catering, yeah. Let's have some more ideas from the back row. What do we buy in? Look around you.
Pens.
Pens?
Pencils.
Yeah.
Lights. Computers.
Energy. Yeah. So it's huge, isn't it? All the number of suppliers who deal with us. Why do you think? Why are they a stakeholder?
The quality of the products aren't good enough that can have an impact on the college, and if you don't provide them good service as well, they need money from you.
Yeah.
So
because they're running their business, aren't they? Yeah. Do you think we'd be a good customer to them? Do you think the college would be a good customer to? I don't know. Yeah. What and why?
Because they're giving them the business.
Yeah. It's business, but there's good business.
There's a lot of contracts and stuff in place, isn't there?
Yeah. I think we're a pretty honest business, aren't we? We're not going to not pay them. So in that sense, are we a good business to do business with? We're low risk. Because all business transactions, this is not schools, but all business transactions are generally done on what's called credit. So they do the bit, they supply the goods, or they do the service before they've been paid. So there's a risk there, isn't there? You're not going to get paid.
Off the top of your head, this has put you on the spot. Don't feel if you can't. But how much, for example, paper does a college get through, and how much we spend on something like that?
I couldn't tell you,
Yeah.
except that if you stacked all the boxes up, I reckon it would probably fill this room for a year.
Yeah,
If you imagine this box filled with A4 reams,
yeah,
just seeing the number that comes in on a pallet
yeah.
probably every couple of weeks, that's scary.
Each member of staff, I was going to say, each member of staff has got, I don't know whether you see, where's the paper cut? No. Oh, I can't find it.
It's one of those green ones.
Okay, so since I've been here, and I've been here like, I started on the 3rd of
A month.
September, so I've been a month, I've spent £113 in printing.
Do you have to pay that back?
Huh?
Do you have to pay that back?
No. But it's
Take
just,
it out of her salary.
honestly, it's just a way of making me realise that I'm actually using paper. What did you want to say?
My tutor, she's been here for like 4 years and she's spent over 1,000.
Yeah. So that's 450 staff here at the different colleges, all, printing and photocopying, and that's not photocopying, that's just printing one of these, and then I go to the machine, and I've had to do, however many, like 45 for my classes, so that's every member of staff's a lot of money.
And it isn't, and if you think about the supplier that's gone into that and this, what else is involved? What are the costs? Because it isn't just the paper. Ink,
Yeah.
yeah,
Electricity.
electricity. What about the fact that we have quite a lot of confidential stuff? Confidential shredding. So you've got to pay to have the stuff shredded. What about just waste? As a business, in your homes, you just empty your bins every couple of weeks. You don't think anything of it, do you? Whatever you do. But as a business, you have to pay for every single sheet of paper to be taken away and disposed of. What about the cost of that software that's called PaperCut, which is well worthwhile having? There's a cost to that, and I signed off an invoice for it last week, several £1,000s across a 3-year deal. So that the suppliers are supplying us with loads of things. They've got a stake in our business. So it's this concept of stakeholders. So they want to supply as much as possible to us because that then grows their business. There's reputation as well, so they want to be involved with us because we've got a good reputation and they can boast, if you're a little business and you start supplying Richard Taunton College, actually, that's quite, we're quite a big prestigious business. If you're a very, very small business. Now, if you're Amazon, the fact that we've got an account with Amazon, we buy some books on Amazon, well, okay, maybe they're not going to be that impressed. But, to a small business, their local college is a really big business. So it's all about your perspective. But suppliers absolutely have a big stake in our business. So we try and get some of them to give us sponsorship, for example, give us a bit of a freebie. And in return, you can advertise your business locally. So I'm not sure whether we do, but sometimes schools and colleges or whatever, you see advertising for the supplier of so-and-so, maybe they sponsor the football team, that kind of thing.
Well,
So
we've got a
massive
massive
time.
we're all right. So in comparison with Aura Events, they've got loads of different sponsors, and they actively promote the businesses that give them some money. So, for example, one company, Health and Leisure, they've got adverts in all of their health and leisure places, and in return they advertise in their book. They put a big advert in. I know that one company, I can't remember which one it was, they were negotiating to get some money. It was about £2,000, to help them. So it's money coming in, they get an advert or something around the event. So that's a good difference, actually. Yeah. So we don't actively promote, really, on our literature. Can you make sure you put that down? Because suppliers, obviously, quality of suppliers is a major impact for the reasons Molly said, and obviously that is going to be on the video. But Aura Events actively promote their sponsors, whereas a college doesn't really, I wouldn't say. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
And why do you think we can't promote local suppliers? Why? Sorry? it's not about not having anywhere to, because I mean we could have a website peppered with it, couldn't we? We could have banners right the way down the drive. It's not so much about not having the space.
Is it not done with professional?
Yeah, what about the professionalism of it? Is it fair that we're bombarding, our students, our captive audience, with one supplier's name versus another just because they've paid us some money? I don't know, it doesn't feel quite right.
If a company sponsored us, gave us loads of money, they might say, right, every teacher has got to wear a sweatshirt with my logo on it. Like who we end up working for.
Yeah.
They might have an influence on what we teach,
Yeah.
how we teach it,
Yeah.
if they're giving us a lot of money.
I mean, that's why if you think about our MPs and, our kind of the government, there's really strict rules about donating to political parties because suppliers want to influence the government, don't they? Sort of, legalise cannabis or whatever it is, or completely open up sales of tobacco to 12-year-olds. We're not going to do that. But so we restrict the ability of suppliers to influence the government. And I think it's right that suppliers absolutely don't influence us as schools. So we can't use that sort of marketing type thing. We can't, get £2,000, £2,000 per advert from suppliers in our prospectus because it just would not be ethical. What else do we want to say about?
Well, I think this is quite an important one, so we need to go through the list. So, banks.
Bank, yeah. Why do you think I put bank on the list of stakeholders?
You need money.
Sorry?
You need money.
Yeah. We might do, we might not. Actually, at the moment, we have money in the bank, so we don't need to borrow money from the bank at the moment. But we might do in the future.
Keep on happy.
Yeah. I mean, just a really simple thing. We have to run bank accounts, so we have to have a bank to be able to run our bank accounts, so we can pay our suppliers, so that I can sign off the payroll and actually get paid, so that Angry gets, blah, blah, blah. So you've got to have a bank. But and I've worked, so Brockenhurst, for example, it's public knowledge, I'm not telling you anything confidential, they do have loans. Their bankers are Barclays. Barclays are very interested in how Brockenhurst's financial statements are looking because they're a stakeholder. And if you ever struggle with that word stakeholder, just think skin in the game. So if you're a bank and you've lent money to a company, you've got skin in the game because if that business goes bust, you lose your money, whether you're a bank or an individual. So the banks they've got a real interest, particularly if they've loaned money. But what else do we have access to that they might be interested in? Have you all got bank accounts?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who banks with Lloyds? 2, 3, 4.
God, no.
Well, Lloyds aren't stupid, so they know that the statistics show that the bank you first open with as a 14, 15, 16-year-old, there's a very good chance you'll still be banking with them in about 50 years' time.
Yeah, I've been banking all my life with Lloyds.
Sorry?
Oh, no.
Yeah. No, I would say to you, don't do that. Do move around, get the best deal you can. But Lloyds have all sorts of programs, so they bank with us. But then they say, we can come out and have a stand at Freshers Week. We could come and do presentations to your students. In fact, I might be able to get Lloyds to come in.
Awesome.
Be really interested. They'd be really interesting for you guys. But make no mistake, you are customers. Your customers in the future. Potential customers, actual customers. So they've got a stake. They're stakeholders. Other schools and colleges, why might that be on the list?
Was.
Yeah. Competition.
Yes.
Barton Peveril. What's our friend here is, competition. Why else?
When you were thinking about leaving school, for some people it's quite a scary thing to do. And the more that we can go into your school and make that transition easier for you, the better. So I know that schools, colleges go into schools, sometimes they might be taster sessions, they might be in the hall with a desk and some prospectuses to talk to you, to try and make that transition a lot simpler for you. And if we can have that impact on you at school, make you feel comfortable and welcoming, you know, hopefully you'll come to this college.
But also, like, go back on that bit, we go back to the government. So the government insists that providers of education, schools, colleges, give you guys the best possible careers advice. So if any of you went to a school which had a sixth form, you probably would have had quite a bit of, let's call it encouragement, to move on into the sixth form. But that might not be the right thing for you. You might not be very happy there, might have a long journey, you might have just not been able to do the subjects you want to do, or whatever. But now that school should give really impartial careers advice about where to go next. So schools and colleges should be collaborating a lot to make sure that you guys get the best possible careers advice about all your next stage advice. Now, whether, you know, some do it better than others, but that's one reason. Another reason is that the more, if you think of the schools you came from, the more we know about what's going on in the schools you came from, the better we can design the teaching and learning that goes on here. Because, you know, if Anne-Marie knew exactly where you'd all come from and knew exactly what you'd done and how to, she'd be, you know, even better placed to be able to tailor the teaching and learning that then happens. Equally, if students are coming to us and they don't know the stuff they need to know, we can go back to those schools and say, I think there might be a gap here. So, and the government really drives this objective, but sometimes it's not that effective. What else? I mean, I think education is brilliant for sharing and collaborating. I mean, a private company won't necessarily do so much collaboration with direct competitors because, well, why would they? Why would they? But education, you know, a lot of collaboration goes on. Community users of the college, I put down there because that's something this college is really good about. In the evenings, for example, and at the weekends, we really use this college. So if you're a yoga teacher, you can hire a room or a studio and run a yoga class. And you know, 15 people might come in every Monday at 6:30. So the college gets a bit of money, and our local community gets to use this resource because it's a public funded resource, isn't it? A school or a college. So it's right that the local community can make use of it.
Does anybody know anybody that comes to an evening class here?
There's loads.
Yeah, there's loads going on.
Sports, music.
Because we've got a boxing ring and all that sort of thing, so there's quite a lot of people that are using the sports facilities.
Yeah. We've had the wedding thing here at the weekend.
Oh, get married here. BTEC business marriage. That would be nice. Yeah.
So, community users. The next one, ESFA. We're nearly there. The ESFA. So that's the government department, the Department of Education. Education Skills Funding Agency, note the word funding, so they've got the purse strings. So they put a lot of, you know, a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy around what we do to try and get some consistency across the country. And then the last one, anyone know anything much about local authority, local government, Hampshire County Council? Sorry? Yeah. Transport, yeah. They're really interested in skills. So if businesses around the place say, you know, I can't hire a carpenter for love or money, they might be talking to their local colleges, perhaps not this one, but say, you know, can't get the skills we need, IT skills, digital, marketing, business skills. So they've got a big stake in schools and colleges that you guys are coming out with, you know, good education, with good skills, so that you can be the workers of the future for the local area.
If you think about
and the consumers.
Yeah, all the things that are going on with Brexit, yeah, the country's got to think about making our country skilled here.
More self-sustainable.
More self-sustainable. So we've got to think about you and the future of what we're training you to be.
Yeah.
You know, and that will Hampshire County Council will have that directive from government, and then it's spread in their area. What skills do we need in this area? And it may be that there are specialist skills like dock workers and stuff like this that we have in our area. Yeah.
It's going to create opportunities, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you think about look, workers, what workers do you think we might be short of as a result of no longer being part of the EU?
Doctors.
Doctors, yeah.
Why?
Sorry?
Why would we be short of doctors?
We have a lot of foreign doctors coming,
Yeah.
a lot from Europe.
Yeah.
Nurses, a lot of nurses.
Yeah. We had, I think it was the
Just
Indian.
a lot harder.
Yeah, the Indian Foreign Minister was on Radio 4 the other morning saying about having that ability to be able to, we'll supply you with doctors because they've got a lot of doctors, but they want ultimately the doctors to work here for a while and then go back to their own country to make their country better. So they have that, they like to have that, be able to have that exchange of workers.
Yeah.
And equally our workers can go over there and give their experience. And so the aim is for that country to get better, but obviously that's just one example. Yeah. Right, so we've got one last question to do, which is how do we measure our success? And then we're done. So can you make sure you've got these down, please, and maybe have a bit of a chat about that. So this is the last one.
And it's just my ideas. You guys,
Yeah.
you're the customers. What's the most important measure of success from your point of view?
Annette, what's the most important thing for you at the end of your course? What do you know what I mean? What's the most important thing? Getting good results. Anything else on a personal basis? Yeah.
Able to get back to university when I want to.
Yeah, being able to get to the next step. Yeah. We'll talk about the value added progress 8 in a moment so you know what that's about.
Okay, you got there on that one. So we're thinking about the trust as business now, but you guys as the customers, you can really think about this stuff. You know it better than I do. So does everybody agree that exam results are really probably the single most important measure of success for you as customers, shall we say, of the college? Anybody disagree?
So, yeah, I mean, overall for BTECs it's a result.
Yeah.
The overall result, not necessarily just exams.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah. But it's the outcome, yeah.
Okay, so, but how do we then define that? So, because not everyone's going to get the same grade or the same outcome result, but so it's not an absolute thing, is it? Anne-Marie was, I don't know, say you're teaching maths is easy, isn't it, because it's all about numbers, and she's got 15 people doing maths, but they didn't all get A star at A level. Has she failed because she got a range of results? Some got D, some C's. Has she not done a good job? How do we measure whether or not she's done a good job with that range of results? Because it can't be she's done a bad job because it didn't all get A star. Sorry, it's distinction.
It's distinction star, yeah.
And we can't have done a bad job because you don't all get distinctions. So what education is quite good at doing is saying we need the measure of success surely is about all of you doing better than you thought you could do when you first came in. So have you all got in mind what level you're going to get to with this course?
Yeah. They're all going for distinctions.
You're all going for distinctions. Okay?
Are we?
Yeah?
Okay. Well, why don't you just pass it? Is that right? No, that's dreadful.
Right, so basically, if it's right for you and the level that you came in at, then we're going to be working to push you as hard as you can to get the best you can be.
There's no rights or
Yeah.
wrongs, you know?
Yeah.
So it's about doing the absolute best you can do
Yeah.
for each
So-
individual.
Excuse me, all of you in this room have got the entry requirements to get onto this course, which therefore means you should be able to get distinctions. And I'm here, and the rest of the support staff and everybody's here to make sure we facilitate that and help you grow. Yeah? So you've got the entry requirements because we think, yeah, you can do it. So we'll expect you to go for it. Yeah. We've got 5 minutes, so as long as you've got that list, obviously Ofsted have an impact. They give you, they come in and audit you. We like what our students do next. We like to know, so please make sure you share that when you go on.
Yeah.
Don't move yet.
Just one thing, just think about, can we just ask you to think about the demographics? So we talked about, this is about what's measure of success. So this year we didn't recruit as many students as last year. Does that mean that the college is somehow less successful?
They might have had more students than you thought.
Yeah, but and why might they have more year 4? Marketing? Or, do you really know what this word means, demographics? It's a reference to population in the local area. That's why I put it up there. So if there just happens to be a bit of what we call a demographic dip. So for some reason, 18 years ago, not so many babies were born, basically. 17, 18 years
16,
ago. 16 years ago. All right, so for reasons I don't know why, there are not as many 16, 17-year-olds
At the moment.
as there were 2 or 3 years ago, and as we were expecting there to be in another 2 or 3 years' time. So are we being less successful because we haven't recruited so many students this year, or is it because there actually aren't so many students around? So you have to think much more than the measure of success is how many students. The measure of success might be our share of the market. So in a smaller market, number of students age 16, smaller number this year, if we've maintained our market share, then actually, or grown our market share, that's a measure of success.
So would we compare our student numbers with other colleges and their previous years?
Yeah. It's quite hard to do, so I don't actually know whether our market share's up or down, or won't know for a while. But
Right, has anybody got anything on their sheet that they don't understand? Because I would say that if you've got a question in your mind, other people will have that same question. Are there any points? Can you just quickly scan through to see whether you felt like you should have written a bit more?
Is this illegal then?
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. Anybody got any questions at all?
What's that value-added?
So that is the grades that you come in with. The grades that you come in with, you get a score, GCSE sort of like score. And then we can sort of have a bit of a prediction of what we think you should get. But then if you then go and get higher, that's value added. We feel like we've stretched you.
and we should be doing, that's what all schools should be doing. We should be helping students to get, you came in with this score, if you like, we should be helping you to get a better score.
Okay. Thank you. Can we all give her a round of applause? That was a long talk. Thank you. Well done.